Hey UX community. I wanted to jump in and start this channel off by doing something that I haven't really seen anyone else do before. I want to start out this channel by showing the community how to build a design system from scratch. I don't want these videos to get too long, so we're going to do this in sort of a series format. And I'm literally going to start from nothing and show you over some series of videos how to construct a design system from scratch. So let's go ahead and jump right in here and start doing that. I think this first video will be one of the sort of, most important components of building a design system. So let's jump into Figma here. We'll go ahead and start a new file. And then, for the purposes of this, we're going to keep this file kind of small or whatever, but let's just say, creating a mini design system. You can name your file whatever you want. Call it design system, whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and, like I said, for the sake of this, I'm going to keep it a small file that's easy to manage. And, I want to show you sort of each step of the way, how to construct the important parts of a design system. So I'm just going to choose this Instagram post size just in case I want to start promoting these videos on Instagram or whatever. I'll just keep it at that size. But for the sake of getting started here, we're going to talk about grids. This is the very first thing that I do with any file, whether it's a design system or not, but we actually have created grids as an element of our design systems where I work, and those grids are available to the team to immediately apply to any canvas that they create. So grids are, sort of the most important underlying structure. So I thought this would be a really great place to start. And like I said, it's literally the place that I start, whether I'm creating a new file or whether I'm creating a design system. In this case, we're going to assume we're creating a design system for a team. So I would probably start this out with saying, okay, we've got it. We've got our canvas out here on our stage. We want to create a layout grid. I think the majority of people on the web today are probably using a 12-column structure. So let's go ahead and start out with that. We'll start out with a 12-column count. I think red is a bit alarmist for creating a grid, so I personally don't like my grids to be red. But you can change your grid color to whatever you want. You can change the percentage of the opacity. There's a lot of different controls in here. We'll talk about each one a little bit. I like to typically center my grids. So once you center that, you're going to see some weird things start to happen. With the width of the grid, it's sort of up to you. I like to do everything based on an 8-point grid, so I like to make my gutters 24 to give it a little bit of breathability. And then in terms of some of the other settings, let's say 56 if we're going with an 8-point grid. That should leave us 72 pixels on either side. That'll give us some nice breathability and on the edges here. And then, all of these things are conforming to that 8-point pixel grid. So that's part of the reason for doing that. And then one of my favorite features, when I moved over to Figma from XD, one of my favorite features was the fact that you could actually stack and layer grids. I thought that was brilliant. In XD, you have to switch back and forth between different grid types or whatever. You can't have them all on at once, but I love the fact that Figma gives you the ability to layer grids on top of one another. So one of the things that I always do to create to create any sort of a, you know, if I were going to create a grid style to share out with the team, which we may do when we're done here, then you know, I want to layer the grids because I want to have my 12 column base grid, but then I also want to have a vertical grid that, you know, supports the 8-point grid structure that I was talking about. So I would do that by creating a row. We want to change the count to auto. And then again, I think that red is too alarmist for creating a grid, so I would probably change that to like a light gray or something. You can make it whatever color you want. For this particular one, for the 8-point vertical grid, we'll align top, and then we'll set the height to 8, and then we'll set the gutter to 8. Now, the reason that we do this is because it creates this striping effect where you can see the stripes, and each one of these stripes are 8 pixels, right? So you can align to this easily when you're creating an 8-point, you know, when you're creating your sort of vertical rhythm in here, if you will. So the other thing that you could do is, and the other thing I didn't talk about in the other screen when we were setting up the initial sort of 12 columns, is I didn't talk about this offset. But let's say this 8 pixel grid, let's say we knew we wanted a 72 pixel. We've got 72 pixels on the edges here. Let's say we know we wanted a 72 pixel break at the top as well for a header or something. We could set the offset on that, and it would start that. You can see it bumped that grid down. So now it starts that grid at the offset that I've set here. So that's what the offset does. You know, that's pretty handy. Like I said, if you're building a UI or something and you know what your header spacing is and you want your 8 pixel grid to start at the bottom of your header, for example. So that's another trick to sort of be aware of, is that you can do offsets to have these grids start wherever you want them to start, which is pretty great. Then once we've got our sort of grid structure here, we've got our 12 column grid structure, we've got our 8 pixel grids, we've got our space for our header. Then what you could do, if you're creating an actual design system, what you would want to do is then you would want to consider turning this into a style. And I would leave both of these on as part of that style. And then I would just click plus here and I would say, you know, main layout grid or something, you know, whatever makes sense to you. You know, main page grid or something, whatever makes sense to you in terms of the naming structure there. But now what this does is that as your team goes in, if your team is creating other pages, and for whatever reason, if they decide they're going to create a page for themselves, and let's say they're going to use the same size we're using, right? Because we probably would have created this at a desktop size if we were doing this for real. And then what this does is this gives the team then the ability to then go in and say, okay, I want to go over here and I want to look and I want to, oh, we've got a grid already. I want to apply that grid. And so now they don't have to go in and manually enter in all of those values and sort that out. And they don't have to try to track that. You can actually share these grids as part of the style. You can share these grid styles rather as part of the design system for the team, and so they would have access to those as well. And then, like I said, that you don't have to then try to educate everyone on what the grid setup is and all that, and you know, they can actually just click apply, and they're off to the races and whatever pages they want. So, you know, that's really the sort of best place to start, is to get your grid right, get your grid all set up and make sure that that's right. You know, and I think I'm going to just cut this one down here and just call that done for grid. You know, we could set up these grid styles, and you know, it's been a minute since, you know, we've been building our design system for quite some time. It's been a minute. I can't remember exactly how you share this with the team, but let's say we wanted to make this available to the rest of our team. I'm trying to remember exactly where you do that at, but it's basically as simple as sharing out the publish styles and components. So publish library. So you would want to So here you can see, okay, here's what it is. sorry about that. You're going to watch me stumble through this because it's been a minute since we've had ours shared out for so long. I couldn't remember exactly how you shared them out. But that's basically what you do is you select these sort of elements that you want to publish, and then you can share them out to the entire company, or you can share them out to a specific team. And in our particular case for our design system, obviously we're sharing them out to the company. And then anytime that you click publish, those changes automatically get published out to the team, and then or to the entire organization if you're sharing in that manner. So for the sake of not confusing a bunch of folks at my current job, we'll just share this out to my specific sandbox team, because I'm the only one that's a member of my sandbox. So that won't confuse anyone, and that will show you guys. Then I can show you guys how that gets updated. So now if we were to go in here, for example, if we go in here and we select this grid, and let's say we wanted to make some change in here, we've got our main layout grid. Let's say we wanted to add another grid to the top of it for whatever reason. And then we exit out of that, and now we've got 3 grids layered on top of one another. So now if we go in here to our assets panel, you will see that there is a change. And so Figma sees this change and says, hey, there's a change in here. Do you want to publish out your change to anyone that's using this library? And you can either publish that change or not. So in this particular case, we could publish that change out. It would publish out, and now anyone that's using this grid would get updated. So that's another really cool feature of the way that sort of Figma works. And the other benefit to using a design system is that then you're publishing things out like this to your team, and your team gets these updates as things change. So now we'll go back in here and we'll remove this back out and just get back to our standard grid. And we can go out and publish that change again, and now all of that's back out to the team. So the team now has access to this grid structure in your design system, if in fact this was a real design system. So yeah, I think we'll cut this video here, because like I said, I don't want these to get too long. And then I think in the next one we'll probably cover font styles and color setup, color library setup as well. So look forward to that here pretty soon, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.